do have a quorum, yes. Public participation, do we have any tonight? Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay. To consider the approval of November 15, 2018 school committee minutes as written with corrections or as recommended by the superintendent of schools. I know the agenda says 2008, but we'll look at it. Thank you.
This is the typewriter.
It was the typewriter's fault, okay.
We're one step beyond chiseling it and stone.
Okay, a motion on accepting these minutes as written.
I move we accept the Thursday, November 1st, 2018 minutes.
Second on that?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Principal's report.
The only thing
You
I
know what?
have,
That's the day I was absent.
There are
No, this is November.
There are 2 copies of
No.
minutes. One, there's an extra copy of the corrected minutes, because the minutes from November 1st were,
But November 1st, I was, the minutes from that meeting, I was absent, so I can't really approve them.
but they were approved with corrections at the last meeting. I
Okay.
provided a corrected copy.
Okay.
So if you want to make, Mike read the motion correctly.
Okay.
Yes, that,
All right,
this
all
is
right.
only for our eyes, the corrected version.
Okay,
That's
got
all
it,
there.
got it, all right. And then I think, yeah.
Sorry about the
something?
confusion, yeah. I should have mentioned
the
that.
only thing I have this evening is Mr. Ashby has come to me, and we've talked about this before, is the equipment that's on the stage that's either broken or too big for our kids. And we've approached other schools, we've approached the medical center. He wanted to know, what we can do with the broken stuff so kids don't get hurt.
Didn't we have something like 6 years ago, whatever, to sell some of it or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And
Nothing. He's speaking more of the broken stuff from the safety.
Broken to the point where it can't be repaired, or broken to the point where?
He asked if it could be disposed of, and I said, well, generally, if it's metal, if it's approved, you take the metal, goes to
Where
scrap.
did that come through a grant or something
I
like that?
believe so, it was there when I arrived 8 or 9 years ago. I mean, we can think about it this meeting and talk about it next meeting, or,
I don't know, maybe get some pictures or whatever and see, you know, people, I don't know, it's probably outdated equipment. So,
Put it on the agenda for next week?
you could,
That's on it?
you can get some pictures of them and the ones that he's, you know, questioning, get rid of and so on like that, and we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting to
okay.
dispose of it properly or whatever. This way you know if it's hurt.
And that was it.
Did we have to approve the second set of minutes?
The November 1st ones?
I made the motion for the November 1st one, but we didn't make any motion for the November 15th one.
No, it was the November 15th one we had to approve.
Right, sure, because I said November 1st. Oh, all right. Never mind. Okay.
Okay. Anything on the website? You wanna,
The website is up, it's a long address, so I've bookmarked it. There are some handbooks on there, sports teams, outing club, those types of things, with more things to be added.
okay, so,
And I'm not
so
sure,
it's still under construction.
no, it's been published, I believe Mrs. Morse was to send all board members.
Yeah, I'm
Email.
talking
It's a
about.
work in progress.
Yeah, it's being worked on still, it's still.
Right, and it will be, as events change, we know we'll be adding and deleting stuff. But there may be, like the handbook has a bullying policy in it, so the handbooks are on there.
Because I noticed the
Calendars on there.
landing page, it had, you know, what was going on and all the dates are the same, November 30th. It's like,
Well,
okay,
yeah, I think
Well,
you
it's-
said that it's under construction. This
Yeah.
is a preliminary thing. This is,
And That
to
was
get
put
going.
on Google, that was made
That's
with
through
Google?
Google, because we
And
all
what
have
was- What was the
Gmail.
cost of that,
There wasn't any cost to my
Okay.
knowledge.
other than
People's time.
people's time and stuff? Okay.
Well, I have a couple questions on that. When somebody Googles Lubec School, how are we gonna get that link to come up? Because right now, and how do we get that old link off? Because when somebody goes into Google, anybody that wants to know about school, they're gonna get that old link. And I don't know how you get that old link off, because, and they won't be directed to this one. It's
If
not
you want
published.
to give me a list of questions or suggestions, or
Mhm.
email me some,
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
I
we
can
take a
pass those
list and-
on.
Yeah, we need to get that old site off,
Kathy,
because that's the
Margaret.
first thing that pops up, and nobody knows about this other site. But I don't know, because they said that the guy that built that, and that had the passwords to it, is long gone.
The old one? No.
Yeah,
Ron built
At
that
Ron
house,
Shea.
he's been
Yeah.
around quite a while.
And he's been-
Doesn't even live here anymore.
No,
yeah.
the passwords, you don't have it
It might be a
Neat.
technical question, she had knowledge of how to do so.
there.
Yeah, how to take down the old ones so people don't confuse it.
No, if you want to send an email and pass that stuff
No,
on, so.
well,
That's,
put something out on
Okay.
bacon and
Margaret.
stuff, so. You notice anything?
I didn't notice anything other than, it is under construction. But it looks good.
They did a nice job with it.
Yeah, they've done a very good job on it.
the only thing that I would say, I know that the information's all coming, but the announcements should be front and center. Because otherwise you have to scroll down, you don't know to scroll down. There's the
Yeah, I
front
can put
page,
that on the
and then
list
you
to
have
take
to
a
scroll
landing
down,
page.
and then there's some announcements, so
You know,
But
when
I'm
you hit
gonna,
the
you
landing
know-
page, you should notice the most important things come right out to you.
I figured they were still working on it.
Yeah.
Because they did a lot of work on it.
Okay, yeah. That's it? Okay, school committee, professional development follow-up. Anything on University of Maine?
Yep, they said they were very interested in it, although when I contacted them, it was Thanksgiving week. And they had everybody pretty much out. And they were having a conference this week. So they were saying that Friday or first part of next week, they will get back to me. Because we caught them right at Thanksgiving break when everything was shut down. And they're doing, but they said that is something they're very interested, that is something that they regularly do. And that was their office. But the PhDs, the professors there, were not available because we caught them right at the holiday. So, but that is something that they do, especially in rural counties, not so much for the larger cities, because they usually have their own. And there's no fee
Okay.
on that.
We'll hear something on that, probably.
Yeah, next meeting I'll have something for sure.
I'll just put in more info to follow.
Yes, yep.
Okay. Hello.
I'm sorry, but since we don't have an agenda to follow, I don't know what you're talking about. UMN, that's all I got, something that's for UMN.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean,
I can, it was announced, it was a follow-up of the last meeting, when I was gonna be contacting the University of Maine about, for their education professional development department and their
Professional
professors.
development. Thank you, that's all I need.
And they provide services to schools in Maine.
Thank you,
Okay.
thank you, Mike.
okay, I have a question. Yesterday we had a delayed start in Machias for the high schools. And there seems to be a lot of confusion about where the information comes from. And who's dispersing the information on this side here. It got a little confusing. People were a little testy about, they didn't know if the kid was supposed to be on the bus, whether it was a 1 hour delay, a 2 hour delay.
Yep.
And a lot of the information was coming from someone in Machias.
Right.
Instead of coming from here, because
Okay.
somewhere along the line, someone kind of, there was like a disconnect.
No, I can clarify that. AOS 77 did not have a delay.
Right.
AOS 96 had initially a 1 hour delay that got changed to a 2 hour delay, and that reflected largely local conditions in the immediate Machias area.
Yeah.
My phone does ring in the morning, and it is the superintendent from AOS 96. The superintendents along the coast, Mr. Ramsey in RSU 37, which is Harrington, Narragansett. He and Mr. Porter speak, and Mr. Porter and I speak on the logic that weather travels from west to east, and if they're seeing something on the other side of RSU 37, we're gonna see it in about 20 minutes. So all of us talk in the morning. I can tell you that in this particular case, the conditions were more localized in AOS 96. I did get some reports of some scattered places where it was slick here in AOS 77, but Mr. Porter had a high level of concern in AOS 96, and he made the call for his own district. RSU 37 did not have a delay. I attended the meeting at UMM that morning, so I had the opportunity to speak directly to Mr. Ramsey and Mr. Porter later in the morning. And indeed, 96 was the only district here in our area that had that delay. The other reason that I get called, apart from the three of us trying to discern the weather, is that obviously AOS 96 receives our secondary students at Machias High School, and even though Washington Academy is an independent private school, the sending towns that feed Washington Academy are mostly under the jurisdiction of AOS 96, Machias, Fort Cutler, East Machias, whatever. Those towns feed WA, so WA 99.99 will follow suit with AOS 96 because that's where most of their sending kids come from. I can tell you that from a matter of nuts and bolts scheduling, I like to stay on the same page in terms of school cancellations and early releases as 96 for the reason that I just mentioned. We send our secondary kids to Machias, and I have kids that go to WA, not just from Lubec, but from all over the district. Perry sends kids to WA, Pembroke does obviously, Charlotte sends a few. So logistically, it makes sense to try and stay on the same page. In this particular case, it also was a very late notification. My phone rang at 6:05, and on a typical day, it rings at 5:30. Our buses were already on the road when my phone rang. I called Tina, and I said, she's the first call because here in Lubec, we start school before everybody else. So if there's any kind of delay cancellation, Tina is my first call because our buses roll early. They were already on the road. So what happened was we held the high school kids at the elementary school until Machias and WA were ready to receive them. And also essentially because travel was worse as you got closer to the Machias area. It wasn't just a scheduling thing, it was a safety thing. So we kept them right here in Lubec.
Well, I think one of the problems that I saw come up was that someone from Machias put out on Facebook, we love Facebook,
Yeah.
that there was a delay, okay? And of course, our buses are already on the road, so then, you know, the kids that are going to Machias, okay, do we get on the bus now, or are we gonna have a bus later? And there was confusion about what happened there. And, you know, there was like confusion about, first it was a 1 hour delay, and then it was a 2 hour delay.
Yep.
So, yep.
I think, this is gonna happen, you know, over the winter, and there's gonna be something, I think, what I was seeing is the problem is that you need a voice of authority on there saying this is really it, not somebody from Machias that doesn't have the authority to say what's going on in Lubec, or,
Yep.
you know, you said you get the call and then you tell Ms. Formal.
Right.
So she's the point of authority to make that call. She's,
Okay,
No,
so,
I mean,
They have a phone call system
yeah,
in
so,
their power school,
so,
that they, like we do.
and-
School
and-
message.
but to make decisions.
Yeah, but it
You're
doesn't
the
tell what
next in
buses
line
are-
to make a
Didn't tell what the
decision.
buses are doing.
Right.
So point of,
So and then to make the directive,
would
you make the call, and then in order to get the information out, then it goes to Ms. Formal. And then who is it that is the contact person? It isn't somebody in Machias or
No.
whoever wants to pipe in on Facebook, this is what I think, because I think that's what kind of got confusing is
and
you need somebody that is speaking in position of authority, on there.
So let me ask this, would it have been helpful if we had kicked out on School Messenger a follow-up clarifying message saying that there is no delay in AOS 77? Because somebody gets on Facebook and says Machias and WA have a 2 hour delay, parents who live here in Lubec who send their kids to those schools, I think would logically think, oh, well, there's a delay. Well, we probably have a few that have older siblings at Machias or WA and younger children at Lubec, and there may very well have been confusion in that case. Would it have been helpful if a follow-up clarifying message, because Tina can put it on school messenger, you don't, who does? Who puts on the school messenger?
Noreen
for us?
does,
Noreen
but
does?
the difference is that when the 8th grade goes to high school, they're taken out of our student information system.
Yeah.
I don't have contact
Yeah, they
information
have
for
their-
the high
All
school.
their contact
That all-
appears.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
a problem.
But, but the message, instead of people that aren't in a position of authority on Facebook putting out messages,
That happens on Facebook all the time.
oh, I know, but they're really relying on this, and they're thinking, hey, this is the truth, because it's coming from somebody that works over in Machias, or somebody that works inside the school. How do they know this is the fact? I mean, now we have a website. And can Noreen relay the absolute fact, so we know it came from a position of authority that,
Machias has their own messenger system.
Right.
I have called both WA and Machias and have said,
Right.
can you relay through your messenger system? So they have that option just like we do.
but it should be, I don't know if you want to do this, but on Facebook saying, this is the fact, this is Lubec School, and you direct Noreen to say the official message, not it's coming from this person or this person, that this is the official
Well,
statement.
I think in that case, we could have followed up with a clarifying message, because the superintendent in AOS 96 doesn't have any jurisdiction over the Lubec School Department.
But just to
nor
let
do
the
I have
families
any
know here in
jurisdiction over
Lubec,
those.
what is the truth? This is real, this is coming from our
This
principal,
has
she
happened
knows.
a few times in the past couple of years.
Yeah,
And almost in reverse, where we had the bad weather here,
Mm-hmm.
and we called off school, and everyone else around us, what are they doing over there? Well, it's snowing like hell in Lubec.
Yeah.
We'll make sure it's on our Facebook, or on our website
think- I
page,
think-
that's official.
Yeah, I think one of the things, maybe if we, can position something, if we do have a delay, and we can put it on, for whatever reason, a temporary landing page on the website. This is the delay, this is what's gonna happen, so on like that, so, and then we can get maybe a notice to go out to the parents, probably in the next week or so. Hey, here's our new website. All the information you need is gonna be on this website.
Okay, so I
Ignore
have to,
Facebook,
Yeah.
it's my pleasure.
Yeah, bingo.
okay?
Um,
I mean, there's a link to Facebook. If they really wanna go on Facebook, they can go on the website and they can link into Facebook if they want.
I have to check with Noreen and see what she has for computer ability at home. Right now, she is not an administrator on the site to change anything on the webpage. That is Kathy, who's in Machias, and Margaret, and I don't know what Margaret has at home. So I'll need to check into those pieces. I don't have the internet at home.
Thank you for being patient.
I wanted to say, because I was one, and I know people talk about it, but I did put a clarifying message on Facebook, and I typically do after I talk to, like, if we get out, like, this past time, I simply put the bus is already out there, we got the call after the bus on the road, high school kids
Right.
will be on the bus. Everything I put on there is something I'm getting the information from my administrator. In the past, when we have a 1 hour delay or 2 hour delay, or there's one bus or two bus, I put something, a factual comment out there. Am I not supposed to do that now?
No.
Is that what you want me to do?
No, I-
You did.
I'm talking about the person that is over Machias,
Okay,
that's
'cause
giving information
I
about the
make it
fact that
quick
was
and to the point of the fact,
No.
after I confer with Tina, and usually Tina calls me and says,
That's the thing, I was looking at, other people typing it, and it was the wrong information. You did correct it. But that people don't know who is the authority, because, if you don't have the authority and you don't work for Lubec School, please don't give out any information.
Right, yeah.
And, I know that you did correct it, and that confused people.
We had to know
And
the
now
bus
we're not
on the
talking
road.
about you.
okay.
Yeah, it's just that, other people in other schools.
Please
But-
keep posting, you keep me up to
I
date.
only started, I called you because people were calling me and I didn't have a clue. I didn't know at that point if it was fact or not that we were getting, that other schools were having. I didn't even know until halfway through the day, it was 2 hours late. Because I
Yeah.
don't check it,
Does that solve the issue then, if Anna puts it on?
Well, I think it really should be pointed out to the parents, okay, look, the official distribution of news should be through the website. And, please don't go to Facebook. Go on the website and get it from the website. This way here, we know it's coming from Lubec. We know it's not someone, down in Machiasport saying, oh, there's a delay or whatever, and someone's seen it on Facebook. Oh, there must be a delay and there must be no school. Everyone in the city. So,
Do you know for sure if WA Machias has a phone message system that calls the parents directly?
Machias does. And
I think
they
WA
use, they
does.
use the same school
I-
messaging system that we use.
Machias does, I know that.
Right.
I think it'd be simple to just, maybe somebody put it on Facebook, there's an alert on the website, please see our website for the information. And then they know they're getting the factual information. They can alert them that there's been, that there is an alert on the regular website. And I've seen lots of websites where they have, the asterisks and stuff and say, this isn't,
Do you think our
information for
high
today.
school parents will check the elementary website?
well, we should consider it the Lubec School website, whether or not it's the elementary. I mean, this is where they get their information from. I mean, it's still part of the school system here.
I think it's a good idea to post it on the website, and we can direct parents' attention to it. And
Could the message, the system just say, please see the message alert on the website? And something simple, you don't have to go into specifics or anything, because the website will have the specifics.
Somehow I've gotta be able to get notification to the high school parents with
Quickly
this
too,
website.
quickly, we don't have a bus out there, it's gotta go there
Because all their
quickly.
stuff is gone with them.
And they all check Facebook. I hate to say it, they
Well,
do.
that's one thing on the,
I'll stew with it and
that's
come up
one
with
thing
something.
on the website we were discussing before would be very, very helpful, is to put up a survey. And how do you want your information? And for the, high school and grade school, what is the preferred method? And we will put it on here so they know, this is the information for both. So there's no confusion on
I mean,
it.
the same thing works for early release. If we have
Yeah.
storm come in early release, people are confused, okay, what time are they getting out, what's going on? Are they gonna have a bus from Machias? So, okay. So,
I'll
lots of notes on
think,
this website.
think on
so,
this one.
Yeah.
Okay. Superintendent's report.
A couple interesting items in my report this evening. It is my unfortunate duty to report to you that the central office had a data breach, and it is significant. In case you hear something about it, all employees have been notified in writing that this data breach occurred, and in the letter I described the types of data that may have been compromised. And it's all data that we would have in the central office, name, date of birth, physical address, mailing address, and potentially SSN and account numbers if you had direct deposit. Obviously, the gravity of that is significant. So if you hear something from an employee that did in fact take place, it has been reported to law enforcement. And I don't mean local law enforcement. I'm talking about specialized law enforcement who deal in such things. Because it is one thing to hack into, on the school website, just as an example, something else to attack a quasi-government agency that's in the public domain and handles public money and things of that nature. The ante rises a little.
Is the AOS capable of furnishing, let's say, some protection out to the people whose data was breached? Like LifeLock or
We have,
something like that?
in the letter, I had encouraged, because I drafted the letter and signed it, so I encourage people in the letter to contact their financial institutions directly, because each financial institution has their own security procedure. As far as, to answer your question, the short-term answer is no, because we aren't in a position to offer any type of service of that nature to the individual employee. But I can say that our server did indeed have an active security program, antivirus program on it. I can only say that those who would attack such a thing are becoming more and more sophisticated as time passes. But there was indeed a security program on it. Employees have been notified, the matter has been referred to law enforcement, and we're trying to rebuild.
That would include the board members also, because our social
Potentially.
security numbers, I mean, all of us, are you sending notification to all the board members of all the 8OS? Because all of our information is in there also, just because we get a small stipend.
Right, in your case, that is correct, and I was reminded of that today. So I still have a stack of notifications, and if a bus driver comes in, we're passing them out as people cycle through our
So
office.
can they
which
send
are
them to
correct.
all the, and we have 2 board members that aren't here that don't know that their information might have been compromised also.
I believe if people, an individual contacts like Equifax or Experian, you can put an alert on your social security number for credit. I don't know how much it locks it down, okay, but they do notify you. There are other, if you have certain credit cards and so on like Discover, they can do that for you, it's free of charge. So, I don't know, maybe someone in the office can kind of reach out to some of these companies or whatever and say, oh, if this is something you can do, be proactive. So, now that I know about it, I'm gonna reach out to
Mhm.
probably Discover or Experian and be proactive about it, so that.
It is.
Have we been reached as well, because I've got no notification, have I just not got,
You have not received the notification yet. Kenny and I
I'm
talked
not
today.
saved, oh shoot, I was hoping that, I was one of the saved ones.
Since I lack the ability to email it directly to employees, we had to break out the fax machine, and it was faxed to all the principals, and literally had to put the
I'm not
thing on the
saved, okay,
photocopy.
just want to know if I'm saved.
Has any student information been compromised?
No. And the reason for that is because we don't house student information on the central office server. And that was the one that was compromised. There is student information on the building level. That's a different and separate system.
Merry Christmas.
So we are rebuilding our software. We did have a lot of stuff on backups, so it wasn't a total loss. But obviously, it's very time consuming, and it's been 4 days where we've been trying to get back. We just now today, this afternoon, were able to start processing as usual. But that matter will be pursued as far as we can in terms of law enforcement, and obviously we'll keep after it. Next item in my report tonight, I do have a sample contract for our school nurse that I'd like to share with the board. Most of it is very straightforward. There is one item I want to call your attention to, and it does say draft on it, but I will be following up with Maryland to see if they have something that doesn't say draft.
But this isn't an employee directly of the school, this is an employee of the clinic, correct?
Right,
So this is their responsibility. This is their employee that they're hiring to work for us.
right. And it outlines the working relationship, but you're correct, Stephanie. And the reason I bring it specifically to the board and want to call your attention, if we look at Roman numeral 7, where it says compensation, be on page 3, I think.
Yeah.
It says RMCL and the school shall agree in advance that the school will compensate RMCL in the amount of X annually to help defray the costs associated with maintaining certification requirements for the provision of required services by the CSN. There is indeed a school nurse certification that's out there. The person that we hired is indeed a nurse. Well, we won't be hiring them. The clinic will be hiring them. But this clause in the contract would seem to indicate that we would be helping them with their certification. And I wanted the board to make sure they were aware of this, should I sign this document, that provision is in there. Now, our teachers have to have certification, and the procedure for which is outlined in the collective bargaining agreement. There's an amount of money that limits how much, and they have to have prior approval and all of those things. In this particular, the other reason that I call your attention to this, this person is, as Stephanie has already alluded to, an employee of the Lubec Regional Medical Center. So technically, this person is their employee. paid for through the grant funds that they were able to obtain. I want the board to be fully aware that this clause is in there, because if that person wants to take a class pursuing state certification as a school nurse,
Is there a number on that?
no, it's left open in this draft contract.
But that is the school's responsibility then.
As it is worded in the contract, it would be.
And
Correct.
in our budget, we did have money appropriated for a school nurse.
Right.
And so that could be used. In that grant that the center had for this, that didn't include training?
I did not see the grant application that the medical center sent in to the feds. I did not see it myself.
It didn't include it?
I didn't see the
Oh,
application.
okay. I was just wondering, if it included, training, then we should be taking this out. If it didn't include training, I can see that that might be part of our responsibility. Oh,
Well, we do have ample space already for that person to work in. That's not an issue. That is listed as one of our other responsibilities in here, but the space isn't an
Yeah.
issue.
How much do we have in the budget for a school nurse? What is on our
Six.
budget?
7?
There's something in that vicinity.
Yeah, that should be plenty to cover a certification.
And I believe that it would be. I just don't want this board to be surprised if they look at a warrant and see that,
Right.
this person was compensated for taking a class. And this is what is called for in the contract. So if you want to spend a little time with it, obviously it says draft, and no, I haven't signed it. I have indeed read through the rest of it, and in my mind, there isn't any other thing here controversial that will have potential for controversy in my opinion. This is why I called your attention to this one item. But you're certainly free to take it and digest it. And if you want to contact me at some point in the future and give me the green light to sign it, I can do that. So whatever the board thinks. But this is the draft contract that was sent to me.
I think it's a really good deal that we got this.
Absolutely.
Well, I would make a motion to put it on the floor that basically, you have approval to sign this contract as written. If you understand that the certification would come in basically because we get money earmarked for that already.
We have money available.
Not to exceed what's available.
I would keep it consistent with the teacher's contract, is what I would do.
Isn't that 2 classes?
Yes.
You can take?
Yes.
And isn't it like 1,000 or 2,000 that's allocated to one for professional development?
I'd have to look.
Yeah, it varies, yeah.
For education, yeah. So
You
no,
have a
this is
question?
education.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Thank you. In regards to that, how long is this contract with the Regional Medical Center for this nurse? That's my first question.
I believe the contract, and I'm looking right at page 1, that has an effective date, basically whenever I sign it, for 2018. So that suggests to me it will be a 1-year contract. I do have, I believe it's a 2-year grant. So the medical center has funding for 2 years, but this contract will be 1 year at a time.
My other follow-up question to that is, I understand, but it gets tricky, as you said, Mr. Johnson. This is an employee of the medical center.
Right.
This is not an employee of the school, and they should have to keep up their certification. If we don't get this nurse back after 2 years, or they don't get a grant, we paid for them to have somebody move on to someplace else to be a school nurse. My suggestion is to think about possibly limiting it to 1 class each year. How many classes are involved? Do we know that? How often? Is this person certified right now? When is their certification up?
Okay, she's not a certified school nurse.
She's not.
She is a certified registered nurse,
Right,
but there is this classification to
Right,
be a
I
certified
understand.
school nurse.
so she's not a school nurse right now.
Right.
Okay. How many classes does it take for this person to become a school nurse? Because then we're hiring somebody that's not a school nurse, using them as a school nurse. Can you do that in the meantime?
We can,
Yeah.
for the reason that you mentioned earlier. This person would not be an employee of the school. We are essentially contracting for service. As an RN, certainly this person is well qualified. If we were to employ them directly, with a teacher's contract, then the requirement for certification would exist.
Right, I understand that, Mr. Johnson, thank you. My question though still is, how many classes or what is it going to take for them to become a school nurse?
I don't know off the top of my head how many classes would be necessary or the specifics of the training. Given the fact that this is November 29th, almost December, I don't believe the course of study could be completed in half a year. So if we
So
were,
we'll have one more year of this person to possibly get this
right,
certification. I guess I kind of agree with limited to whatever we allow, either one or two
Okay.
for them.
We move on. I'd like to make a motion. We have this contract in front of us here. We brought up to that information as far as that's the question that was on the table here. So I would like to make a motion that gives them the green light to approve this contract. All in favor?
I just have a question on
Okay, go
that.
ahead.
Cause Barb did bring up a good point. I mean, right now, I mean, sky's the limit on that compensation. Is there any guarantee that, you know, it's not gonna be, I just don't wanna get stuck with a $10,000 bill.
no. What I would do is, I would keep it consistent with the terms of the teacher's contract.
Can you put that in there before you sign it?
Okay?
All right, I'd agree if you would, provided that you put in there that it doesn't exceed what the teacher's contract. I
So
just
amend the
wanna
motion.
protect us in that way, because Barb did bring up a very good point. I don't want
On item 7, compensation,
8.
that it, is it 8? Yeah, it's 8,
I'm sorry.
compensation. That it be in line with the collective bargaining agreement contract for teachers and not exceed, how much?
You know that off the top of your head? Maybe if the motion just said consistent with the terms of the CBA, that would be fine.
Consistent with the terms
Two
of
classes?
collective bargaining agreement. Okay, all in favor of that? Okay.
That's all I have in my report for this evening.
Okay, adjustments to the agenda. Any?
I do not have any.
Okay, old business? New business. Have a discussion on individuals or groups using the school for functions. And I think a couple of years ago, we talked about this, and I don't know if it went anywhere. The question I have on this is, who is, yes, thank you. Who authorizes groups to use the school?
I do. So the process is they come to get a request to use the facilities form that they have to fill out. Let's say it's men's basketball, person in charge, size of the group. Have they received the checklist for cleaning, a refundable $25 key deposit, the time, the date, whether it's every Sunday or whatever. So one sheet on one page.
It's a contract, so they know the rules.
To request to use facilities, it does have the responsibility of cleaning, lights are out, doors are locked, have you swept, you know, a checklist for cleaning.
Do they sign that they agree that they will do this?
Yes,
Okay, the reason I bring this up because, you know, we've had some large groups in here. I wanna say, the bike group that we had in here a couple of years ago. They not only occupied parts of the building, but they were on the grass in the field area and so on like that. My question is, if it's not a school-based function, if it's not something like, you know, where, you know, the parent-teachers organization comes in or something like that, or something for the playground committee and so on like that, okay, who is assuming the liability for someone getting injured or something getting damaged in the school?
I wish I could think, I know what you're talking about. I know we had a bike rodeo and that type of stuff, the kids gained out of it. I wanna say they had to provide proof of insurance, but I'm not 100% sure.
Because the thing that concerns me, you get people going in there now, I understand, you know,
marathon.
You have marathons, you have Bike USA or Bike Maine or whatever it was, and then you have, other groups that wanna go in and, have, music shows, or they wanna have yard sales or whatever.
Mhm.
My concern is that, okay, who is accepting the liability for someone to get hurt?
I don't think that's clear, Mike, on
Okay.
this one form.
And, it's to the point where, 20, 30 years ago, you could really not worry about that stuff, but in a very litigious society, people don't
Mhm.
think that way anymore. So, that comes down to number two, okay, do we have any insurance? And I think we talked about this a couple meetings ago, about looking into something, about having an insurance policy that an outside group could sign and buy, let's say, coverage for the period of time that they're using the school and so on like that. I know that the town has it was in Tulip.
Yet, I've been to all those meetings, and the town has actually rejected local groups. I know John Rule is probably the only one out there that is here in the meeting, but there was a local group, Lamps, was rejected. They said, no, you're not gonna use Stockford Park without getting the insurance. And they said, we're small, we're poor, we're trying to do nonprofit. They said, it applies to everybody. They have to go through Renee, they have to get insurance, because anything that happens at Stockford Park, anything that, a nonprofit group or anything that, even if you really support those groups, if something happens during that performance or during that event, the taxpayers are liable. Somebody trips and falls and bangs their head, and I was thinking about Bike Maine, when everybody had all their tents out there, and who knows what could have happened out there, and apparently there were a couple incidences, I guess we weren't sued, but that's a large group of people, and they're not locals, these are people from all over, they're not our friends and family. But I have concern about that, but the town has been very, very strict on their point of view. The select board said, we're sorry, we have to cover our taxpayer base and here, even though we agree with the charity. But, and they have to, and they have to go to Renee, or they do not get permission to use the facility.
So a couple things I'd say immediately. At an earlier meeting, I distributed a sample facilities use policy, I believe, from Perry. It has language to the effect that group has to be insured. My experience with similar policies, an organization that has insurance can get a physical binder, it's like a 1 or 2 pager, pretty simple, where it says, this particular group has insurance. We don't necessarily have to provide the policy or the paperwork. We should put the requirement on the group using our facility or requesting to use our facility to go see their insurance carrier to do the legwork. We can say, before we'll approve your use, I want to see an insurance binder, and put the burden on the group to take responsibility and go get the insurance. So I think that might be a better way to go. The other thing, and I've had to research this to a limited extent earlier in my career, people who use the facility, there is a reasonable expectation, I guess, of acceptable risk. The guys playing men's league basketball, if one of them turns their ankle running up and down the court, if you're voluntarily playing basketball, you're accepting a level of risk. The bikers, however, tenting in the grass, if one of them gets hurt tripping over a pothole, that's a different thing, because the expectation is that we will maintain our grounds, our facility, our something. So my point is, and it's a long segue, is case by case about what's an acceptable level of risk. You don't have anything to worry about the guy shooting baskets on Sunday night or whatever. Somebody from away gets hurt on a pothole in the driveway.
That was the question I had. I mean, do we have, let's say, a criteria of who we can let into the school facility to use it without asking that? I mean, if it has to do with, the parent-teacher organization that comes in there and, they go in and do bake sales like that, or do a yard sale, or something that's associated with the playground committee, do a yard sale, something like that. But anyone that's not really affiliated with the school, I mean, there's an opening for liability there.
You do have control over your facility. don't get me wrong, you've got control over the facility. There is pertinent regulation on the books, it's referred to limited open forum. So if you say yes to the Girl Scouts to use your facility, you can't say no to the Boy Scouts.
Right.
That's discrimination. However, you can put reasonable restrictions. If an organization, say the alumni class of whatever, wants to use your gym, you can say, fine, but we're not gonna serve alcohol on the premises. So you can put restrictions on the use. And that's delimited in limited open forum. But you are in control of your facility. And I wanna make sure I emphasize that point.
Now,
because-
does anyone in the AOS or does the AOS have anything in writing that we can use as boilerplate for that?
Probably. The sample policy I obtained from Perry was one I could put my hand right on because Perry had worked on that policy earlier in the year. I can dig through the policy manuals of some of the other towns, and get you a little wider net than you
So
can.
this way here, not use it exactly for boilerplate, but you use, what's there as a basis
Right.
to, protect what we have here, because, the thing is, and that was the thing that, I questioned a couple of years ago, when Bike Maine was here, and you see all these tents all over, and I did notice the ambulance was down here a couple of times. I don't know if it was just, in passing or whatever, but, the liability is great there, I mean, we open ourselves up quite a bit. A local group and so on like that, like the men's playing basketball and so on like that, someone having, a cupcake sale for the playground committee and so on like that, that's acceptable, so.
So for example, this lamps,
Weren't they providing entertainment for a school
they've
function
asked
though?
to use, and I granted permission, the cafeteria for a craft fair.
But that was in conjunction with a school Christmas party, wasn't it?
No, we had to
Oh.
move school Christmas. Wanda talked with whoever the guy is, and they worked out their date conflict.
Oh, I thought they were providing like entertainment and food and getting donations for something that was going on in the
I
school.
don't think so. I don't wanna say for
Oh.
sure, but that wasn't my understanding.
Yeah, 'cause, well, I don't know how much do we wanna be consistent, and the town didn't wanna say no to them, but they said, we're not gonna take that responsibility.
I mean, the town's the one who pushed me to have Bike Maine down to the school.
Well, then, that's a discussion we should
Yeah.
have, with the select board also, it's like, okay, we need to get our policies straight here. And don't say, no, we're not gonna take the responsibility, go to the school, they'll take it.
Maybe we can actually share the program, the insurance program that they have, I don't know.
I think that's a municipality program,
Okay.
but we should have some sort of understanding between the select board and the school board about if they say no, don't say, I say no, go to the school, because they'll give everything.
You got a question?
I just wanted to mention that there are other organizations in town. I know the American Legion rents out their hall. Tina, do you know if they have to provide insurance? Because they are serving alcohol 9 times to the 10 on there. One of the churches I can speak for, they do rent their hall out. You have to have insurance. And I just had somebody who used our church hall, and it was $100. It goes through that church's insurance policy. And it was a one-day event, and they had to say what they were doing, and for $100, they were covered for liability.
I can't answer the question on the Legion. I'm
I
part of the auxiliary, not part of the men's, and
Right,
that's.
I just know that they rent it out,
team.
Tina, that's all I
Yeah.
know, so the organizations do, and they do have to cover themselves for people falling, or getting hurt, or tripping, or bringing food in and something goes on fire, or what have you. And I think it's only due diligence on your part to cover, whether it's for the community or not, cover it, because somebody could get hurt.
Yeah, and I agree, because, and like you said, it's the church, that's a benevolent organization, they don't want anybody put out or anything, they're trying to do
But
it
they've
for
already
the
made
good,
contact.
but they don't wanna take the liability either.
But they've made the contact like the town has,
Mhm.
when people come, yes, you can use our space, this is what it's gonna cost you, $100 for the day, and you are covered for insurance. So I just wanted to say, they went through their own insurance company, and the town has gone through
Mhm.
the municipal, so I know they have it.
I don't know how that would work, so. Well, why don't we table these two items here for another meeting, and if you can get information on, let's say boilerplate stuff, that we can look at what the use requirements are of other schools. And I will look into the program that the town has here, see if it's something that the school can use.
Any suggestions on how you want me to proceed as groups come in to use the building?
Well, I think we might have to look and see what kind of stuff we have on file.
I mean, I can call him and say, the men wanna play basketball, is that okay? Or,
Yep, I mean, I could bring those policies to the next meeting now. I mean, that's something that we can research quite readily. I'm not worried, particularly here in the wintertime, you know, when the weather turns in springtime, there's a few more requests from different things, so. We wanna have clarification, and I think it's a good idea to be in the same ballpark and on the same page as the town, for all the reasons that we mentioned. But we've got a little time.
Well, I did some research on some, things that were, how notification and who should have authority, and everything I've read was that the principal has the authority. But the majority said the principal, there's a rule that the principal notifies the board, at least notifies. Not that they have the ability to micromanage unless it's like way ahead by committee. And that should be brought to the board so that they recognize it and they might have questions or concerns about that. But things pop up little by little. I think notification to the board that we'll be renting out the school so that if we have any questions or concerns, we can address those. But not that we micromanage it. I don't have an interest in micromanaging it.
the only thing is, even though on the form it says you're supposed to get everything you need a week or 2 weeks in advance, I might have somebody come to me 2 days in advance,
Mhm.
sometimes.
Well,
Yeah.
And
And
then,
maybe in those cases, you know, it might not be available, I mean.
Or just shoot out an email saying this group is gonna be using the school. This is just notification, just so that everybody's in the loop, that's all.
Yeah, I'm just worried that down the road that something is, you know, maybe tripping over a tent pole or a pothole or something like that, and we're gonna be looking at, you know, legal fees.
You had a hot air balloon a couple of years ago in the field over there where it went up and down all day long for the lights.
There you go. Okay. So we'll table those, we'll get some more information down. Like I said, I'll look into what the town uses as far as the tulip.
Yeah, but I remember in the meeting that, and I did talk to Renee, that is a municipality thing. It isn't to schools, but, open to schools, but I think there is something, Perry must have something. And how do they do theirs?
I mean, you've got their sample policy.
Yeah, but who do they use for insurance, or who do they say, this is the insurance provider you should go through?
They don't require a specific insurance provider. That's why I made the suggestion that I did. You put the burden on the group to have their own insurance, go with whoever they want, because they're the ones who would be paying the premium.
But do they have any options of saying, here's some people that may provide
They don't go there.
insurance? They say, you're on your own, you go check it all out. They don't say, this is,
They just require insurance and leave it up to them to, or
because
whatever.
the town at least says, here's somebody you can contact. You're not gonna do it without insurance, but we do have some references for you. Resources.
If we're in a position to be more proactive, then that's good for us.
No other town. Well, I thought maybe we could piggyback on their information.
I'll dig around. Okay, to consider the adoption of the following policies. KDB, tongue twister. Public's right to know / freedom of access. And this is, we had that first reading
Last time.
last week, yeah. So, and I don't know if you have a copy with you or not, I don't know if you read it. Okay. So, we have a motion on that. And a second,
I'll second it.
any discussion?
I would like to see this on the website.
Anybody have on the website?
All in favor? Okay. And JL, student wellness. This is the charter of the class two ones here. So, motion on that.
Make motion, we accept the JL student wellness.
Second on that? All in favor? Okay. This is the very involved one, it was like 20 pages. And it's JLCD Administration of Medication to Students and JLCD-E Medication Administration on Field Trips. So, a motion on that.
So we accept the administration of medication to students and JLCD-E medication administration on school field trips.
And a second on that? I will second that. Any discussion on that? I have a question. And I didn't notice in there, it does not include any kind of administration of, let's say, insulin pump devices?
It doesn't list it specifically.
Right. Okay.
What would happen is, if we had a student that needed that particular medication on a field trip, a couple of things could happen. We have had staff members receive specific training in that, and we would make sure one of those staff members was available to go on the field trip. It is also within our ability as a school department to request a parent accompany a child
Right.
on a field trip. So without listing every single thing in the policy, those two elements are at our disposal.
Okay,
And
because,
we currently have two staff
yeah, because I
members
remember we
trained.
had an
We
it
just
was
sent
an
them in
incident, I was
October.
actually on a field trip with someone who had an issue. So, there was actually someone there who knew how to operate with it.
We just sent them for training again in
Yeah.
October, I think it was.
Yeah. Okay. All in favor of JLCD administration of medication to students and JLCD-E medication administration on school field trips? Okay.
I would like to make a comment on this too. I think these, at some point, some parent is gonna need this information. I would like to see almost all of these policies available on the website. I know that's,
Go slowly, because that's gonna take them a
no,
while.
no, no,
to
no,
scan
but
and-
that's the ultimate goal. I know, and this is, and it's gonna take a long time, because there are a lot of
I mean, if we
policies
can
out there.
prioritize which
Yeah.
ones are important,
Well, we have those in the system as a PDF, right?
I don't know
If it's
a
still
PDF.
there.
That's what I'm saying, if it's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just a matter of uploading the PDF, the file into the system.
Or just a link to the
And
PDF.
Helen can, if Helen can email them,
Mhm.
they can be uploaded as an attachment.
Right.
I
That's
cautiously
just
say
something to
yes.
work on for the future, because these are important, and it'd be nice for people to be able to just click and go. And even people in the public, like, Barb, she'd like to know some of these things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of information that can be put on that website. It's just a matter of getting it uploaded and getting it back, so.
we need to find out if she's back.
Okay, I think we're done.
All right.